Oh, hi there. I didn't see you come in. I was just consulting scripture before we talk about our final episode of Chainsaw Man here on this episode of KHANTEHNT. KHANTEHNT it is. You can support us by going to subscribestar.com/KHANTEHNT, $10 for all our bonus episodes, including our recent summary Attack on Titan Titan Week bonus episode, and many more. Also, an advertisement. Hey kids, want to impress your friends and induce sexual arousal in your neighbors? KHANTEHNT t-shirts!
Wow, I've never been more impressed in my life with anything!
KHANTEHNT now has official t-shirt merchandise, and you can get yourself some by clicking below the video or in the Teespring link in the description. With designs like the classic KHANTEHNT logo.
Or this!
I've got a shirt on too.
Or this. KHANTEHNT! And right now, get yourself the I Survived Titan Week t-shirt. Unless you don't want to survive Titan Week, but hey, that's between you and Jesus. They're a great way to support the show and share your KHANTEHNT pride. So get out there, wear them, and get into KHANTEHNT.
Trauma is how you stay in people's minds. Just like Chainsaw Man. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10!
10 out of 10. Whoa! So here we go, people. The final leg of our story here. Now, first of all, I have to address our
great and powerful
editor Noni, who told us to stop on chapter 81. Did you have any idea why we were told to stop on 81 and not 82? I don't understand it. I'm confused, and I have not consulted anyone.
It didn't seem to make a gigantic difference. It wasn't as though the twist was undone in the next chapter.
No, it was kind of followed through on.
Right.
Okay, anyway, so picking up right where we left off. Power's dead, and no, people, we did not miss the incredibly hard to deduce meaning of the literal Paradise Lost giant painting taking up most of the panel in chapter 81. I did in fact understand and observe Lucifer falling from heaven after being cast down by God. It was pretty epic. I get it, and it was good.
Yes.
So that being said, we're picking up here with Denji kind of just so baffled by seeing Power killed in this way that he's wondering if it's a dream, this can't possibly be real. But
we have our big reveal from Makima that she is in fact an anti-spiral. Her entire life is committed to building happiness for Denji that she can take away. And it's funny
for a purpose.
It's funny that the only reason I probably wouldn't have predicted this is that the happiness she's given him is so deliberately low level. Like she was keeping him fed on like breadcrumbs and like one bit of attention every couple of months.
You're absolutely right about that. But the thing is, I find that like that's the easiest kind of happiness to give someone. Right. It's just that Denji is that guy who had such low expectations for life. It's totally believable, it's easy to do, and even if you want to nitpick on the specific instances, a lot of what happened can just be chalked up to random things because Denji's Chainsaw Man, so it works perfectly for me.
I think she presents it to him like, think about how much happiness you got out of just that, and then like, imagine how much worse it will feel if you get anything more than that. Like, if you get married, start a family, I'm gonna take that away too. Like, any happiness you accrue, like, I'm gonna take it away. So this
is a confirmation. If Denji had run away with Reza, that wouldn't have worked out. As we theorized, this would not have gone as one would hope. And it's also revealed that as she was saying, this is for a purpose, and that purpose is now made clear. She, in like a chapter or two, whatever, the point being, she's a big fan of Chainsaw Man, but that was like the real original Chainsaw Man, who's a special boy, who we'll talk about in a little bit. But before that, it's that the reason for all this is because Chainsaw Man, or the Chainsaw Devil, Puchita, had a contract with Denji, and this pain and suffering has to be in place specifically to break Denji's contract, that being a contract where Denji would live a happy life. This is the agreement he had with Puchita, and Puchita would be the heart. You get the powers, you get basically immortality, all that good stuff. But Makima's plans require that go away so she can have the old Chainsaw Man back.
I guess it's like she puts him in like a logic trap, I guess, of like, you can't logically ever have a good life because I will always take it away from you.
Because
Therefore I
otherwise,
win.
he'd find a way to mentally
Yeah.
cope and like coast along with bare bones
Yeah.
expectations in life. Yeah, it makes sense.
So yeah, that's how she defeats him. And
The fact, the end of that like mental beatdown in this chapter, the ultimate cuckening on of the mental faculties of this man is so sad that she laughs at him. She just like sits there as they eat breakfast or whatever, and he's just curled up on the couch sad. He doesn't go ballistic. He doesn't pull a chainsaw man and kill everyone. He's just got depression, and it's very sad to see. It makes me unhappy.
I'm trying to remember exactly what follows up on that, because she then unlocks Chainsaw Man and basically has him as a pet.
I'll tell you what unlocks it. It's that the next day they wake up, everything's going great. There's some ominous, spooky shots of Makima just like going to work, Denji on a leash basically, as we see like all her like brain slaves, or at least all the devil ones. You got some bug guy who we hadn't seen before. The Angel, who is definitely dead. All these dead people are back, which we'd seen this happen before. But even Powers, like exploded body, is like there in the hallway. It's a real cast of horrors. Oh, Violence Devil. He's there too. And this is right before the plot begins, which is now our boy Kishibe, Master Kishibe, whose name I now remember because he's a cool guy.
Right, that
launches
guy.
the assault on Makima. It's time to kill Makima.
Yes.
Everybody's going in.
That's right. It happens so fast because Makima's like about to do a thing.
Yeah.
She has all her people gathered. She's like, let's commence, and then rocket hits. Totally different scene
Yep.
now. Yeah, that's why I was like, what was it that started this whole thing?
I went back and had to remember kind of how this happened.
Yeah, so he fucking blows up. I guess a bunch of them immediately just get eradicated.
Yeah.
Makima dies one of her many times, I think.
And this is where it's in this, we get the first kind of reveal as to the nature of Chainsaw Man when she, as she has done in the past, turns to Chainsaw Man and says, "Save me, Chainsaw Man." After, with this reveal of all these horrible things she's done, he's agreed to like be her dog. He's like a broken man emotionally and spiritually and whatnot, but she still says, "Save me." And he does it. And in doing so, he kills like all the humans who had gunned her down and stuff, and also begins his final transformation.
He's in berserker mode.
He turns into this beautiful boy right
Yeah,
here,
it's fucking
the
sick.
Chainsaw Man. And the implication of this, what is that, like an intestine, breaks out of his stomach, wraps around his neck. Pretty cool, which by the way, touches a thread I wanted to touch on from last episode. We had talked about how Makima is very like motherly, very very feminine in nature. It's like her control, orderly vision of the world, as opposed to like a fatherly, chaotic, progressive kind of one that Denji kind of more seems to encapsulate. But there's a cool visual representation of that, or at least I'm interpreting it that way. It seems deliberate, which is that all the chains and all the weird like gut things that happen with Makima seem to like come directly from her womb. They seem to come from right at that spot. With just, are these umbilical cords that she's attaching to her children?
It seems like something that would be intentional in this manga.
Of all the places it could come from, it seems to come from there. So just more motherly connections. In any case, now the fight begins.
We've got hulked out fucking Chainsaw Man. He looks fucking awesome with the quadruple chainsaws. So this was the point where I started thinking about Berserk and the Berserker armor, because like I kept comparing this manga to Devilman. And it is similar to that in that it's like sort of a succinct apocalyptic story. Berserk also takes a lot of Devilman influence, but like is a much larger story following the character for like his whole life. But there is a point at which he like, becomes his most badass and gets like a full body coating armor, Berserker style like this. But it's interesting to see what Berserk Denji, or Berserk, I guess, Chainsaw Man Denji. I guess he's enacting Denji's like desires, like
This is definitely the Chainsaw Man.
Okay, wait, hold on. Before he goes Berserk, is it before or after he goes Berserk that she tells him that he killed his father?
Oh shit, you're right. That's one of the big mental break reveals. Oh, great point. I meant to circle back because we never talked about this metaphor or this vision that was happening repeatedly through many chapters that I skipped over because I was like, we'll get to it eventually, I'm sure. This vision of Denji opening the door inside himself. Exactly like, Naruto and the seal with the nine-tailed fox in him in Naruto. But this something's behind that door. It's telling Denji, don't open the door. And, incidentally, it was an interesting visual comparison to him opening the door where Power was behind and got murdered. right? Being told by Makima, if you open the door, I'm gonna kill Power. Maybe don't do that, Chief. Bad things seem to lie behind this door. And in this case, the truth that he killed his own father, and it wasn't a suicide.
And unlocking this is important in that, like, he, I guess, would never have been able to really understand himself, probably, if he didn't know that, like, there was something underlying why he sort of is the way he is, that, like, you know, he obviously has, like, a deep-set guilt complex and, like, has lived his whole life thinking, like, oh, I don't deserve anything, in spite of the fact that, like, nothing's being given to him in the first place. And so it's like, you know, he killed his alcoholic father, forgot about it, but internalized that guilt. And, like, only after that's gone, later on there's, like, a major turning point scene where he has, like, a whole confession about, like, I don't just want to eat toast every morning. I want to eat steak every morning. And I don't just want a girlfriend. I want 5 or 10 girlfriends. And it's like, that's, like, the more normal, really, way to think.
Yeah.
But, like, it's that he was so, you know, so guilt-ridden that and not even really understanding why he was like that through having forgotten it. So now that that's open, he can, like, you know, express his true self, I guess. But he has to do some catching up from, like, his childhood up, like, emotional state up to present, I think.
Yeah, it made for really good comedic and endearing moments, like how Denji is just so such a happy kid with so little in life. But I do appreciate, it makes sense, it is understandable that seems to be based on the emotional trauma, and I guess what you could call the lack of self-esteem that one would get from, like, feeling responsible for murdering your dad, suppressing that, but still feeling that guilt, weighing you down. And that kind of is an explanation for Denji's whole lifestyle up to this point. If you murdered your dad, even out of justifiable self-defense or whatever, I could certainly see how that manifests in many other ways, which explains his character and his ability to get along. Like before, we were saying, like, oh, Denji's such a fun guy. Even though, like, the mob is gonna murder him and cut out his organs every day, he's just happy for another day of life. But really, he's probably thinking somewhere deep inside, like, no, I deserve to, like, be harvested for my organs because I killed my dad. That was a bad thing to do. You know, something like that. Though then again, I mean, we haven't once mentioned his mom, and it just makes me wonder, like, at least his dad took care of him a little bit when he was a kid. Sure, he tried to kill him as, you know, eventually. I'm just saying.
We've never mentioned his mom, and there's an entire new leg of the story that we can open up from this point forward.
You know, there's a great ending of the musical.
I haven't mentioned any siblings either.
That's true. The ending of the musical Beetlejuice ends with, the story involves Beetlejuice, who's a demon, actually, his mom, and at the end, as a joke, Beetlejuice turns to the audience and says, "We wrapped up my mom's arc. Sequel beat for the dad, anyone?" That's exactly how I feel. I don't care about his mom. But we'll get to the end of story implications when we get there. So, as there's a big fight going on, Makima has her big kind of explanation scene with Kishibe, who confronts her and is miraculously still alive after this man's going crazy, where we learn everything there is to know about why Chainsaw Man's so important, why Makima is particularly interested in him, and it goes like thus. The Chainsaw Man was born with a special power, and that special power is that as a demon, when he eats another demon or another devil, the concept that that devil represents goes away. It gets erased from existence.
This scene is so good because she starts by naming a bunch of things that we still know of, but haven't been brought up in this manga that seem more powerful or scary than guns, like atomic
Nazis,
bombs,
the
and
nukes,
Nazis,
or AIDS.
Apparently, these concepts just don't exist in this world anymore because Chainsaw ate them.
And you know what? I had to spend a few minutes thinking, doing some real brain work, thinking about, like, whoa. Okay, so Chainsaw Man ate the Nazi devil. That canonically happened.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, did, like, all the Nazi war crimes no longer happen? Do people just not remember?
No, they just don't
what
remember,
happened?
I think. Because Makima says that she remembers seeing him fight all those concepts, but everybody has forgotten about them except for her. It's just because she saw the battles that she remembers it all.
This raises, I think, a few... Okay, you know what? Before I talk about some of the questions I have about this, let's just finish with other concepts that the Chainsaw Man has canonically eaten.
Yes.
And this is fascinating.
These are great.
So we
I'm glad you wrote them down.
I did. This is fascinating. Nazis, AIDS, nukes. Okay, those are the big ones we know. The sixth sense of human beings is a devil that was consumed and no longer exists. That's why they don't have it in this world
Anymore.
It used to exist.
Yes.
Now
we
it
used to have a
doesn't.
Sixth Sense. We have no recollection of this, thanks to Chainsaw.
A star whose light broke children's minds. So there's a devil that represents like a literal star in space, and this man's so yoked up on that good protein powder shit that he was able to eat the devil that represents it, and it disappeared. Maybe there's something more metaphorical going on here.
I have to
don't
wonder,
know.
like, when they say, like, how easy, like, if you just catch a glimpse of this star, do you go insane, or do you have to really look for it?
Here's a question.
How many kids went crazy from this star?
I forget the name of this. Put this on screen. There is a name of a fear. There's a fear of the moon. There is a fear of the moon. Therefore, a moon devil must exist. If Chainsaw Man eats the moon devil, does the moon go away? I'm wondering if that's the case, because that would have serious implications.
Would it be the moon, or people just forget what the moon is, or forget that they're afraid of the moon?
But surely they'd look up and be like, what's that? Let's give it a name.
Like, did nukes cease to exist?
Did they disappear from silos? Do the silos still exist? Do people ask, wait, why am I sitting at this blank submarine that holds blank missiles? Like, what am I doing in my job here? Did these questions ever come up? These are reasonable to ask. And by the way, the last thing are 4 things that were also eaten. The 4 other fates that can await a human being as a afterlife, death still exists, but there were 4 other options that used to exist that no longer do, because Chainsaw Man ate their devils. Interesting. Interesting.
I really
like reincarnation.
I want to know why. Why?
You know,
why did he eat them? Why were they bad? Were they good?
Let's talk.
Did he just
about
not like
that.
them?
So we're also learning more about Chainsaw Man's character as a devil, which appears to be. So before we talked about several times throughout the series, Makima has said, "Save me, Chainsaw Man," and Chainsaw Man came running. Now maybe that was because she's the control devil and she made him do what she wanted, but there seems to be another thing here. The question had been asked previously: why do all the devils hear the chainsaw before they die in hell and come to Earth? There had to be an explanation for that. I was doing some thinking. I talked with Noni, our editor, about this a little bit. The best explanation we came up with is like, Chainsaw Man hears devils in hell crying out for help to save me, just like Makima does, and just like people do in real life. When he hears that, he is filled with empathy, and he wants to save them. But the way you save someone in hell is by killing them, because that sends them to Earth, where they are now out of hell, and it's like better. Chainsaw Man is also referred to specifically as the hero of hell. He is thought of as a hero, but that manifests by murdering everybody in hell. It happens to work that way in this cosmology. So I guess, like, the more vicious and murderous you are, like, in hell, that same trait is like a good, nice thing to be.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah, given this world and how it operates.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess that pretty much just sums it up. That's what the Chainsaw Man is. Okay, but big question. Of all possible demons, why is this super special power on, of all possible ones, the Chainsaw
Man. That is
devil?
the biggest question.
There is no reason for it.
I
that
have to imagine. That's like the only thing that I look at and I go like, I hope this gets answered in part 2.
Yeah.
Because I do want an answer for this question. There has to be a reason that Chainsaw, of all devils, can disappear concepts and eat their names.
Well, you know, I love a good answer as much as the next person, but the thing is, why is Chainsaw Man have this power? Because he's the main character. And if he didn't have this power, he wouldn't be the main character, and our story would be about the gunman, who Makima would do all these things to instead of the Chainsaw Man. So this isn't a flaw. It's a little bit of like a narrative convenience, like a little bit. You know, he didn't have to have this power.
I just want to, like, is there... I just need some kind of pun that justifies it on like why a chainsaw can
like the
eat.
kanji of chainsaw looks like the kanji of something or whatever the fuck. Like how Makima ma with wood in the middle, a chainsaw cuts wood. That's great. I mean, if that's intentional.
Whoa!
Yeah, I mean, if that's what they're going for, that would be great. That would be great. And you know, on this big reveal, I was also wondering, and I think other people were too. So why exactly does Makima, the control devil, remember while nobody else does? She says she was present for some of those. You'd still think that you'd forget it if we erase the concept. Why does she remember when everybody else forgets? I don't know exactly why that is, but it doesn't really matter. I assume it's because she's the control devil. She's really good at controlling things. Whatever, it's good enough for me. A little bit loose, a little bit unexplained. But
I like how she has control over all the. There's like some new people introduced as well as old favorites that are all in love with Makima under her control. Big lesbian energy once again.
That's true. The guys love it too, but there's big lesbian energy.
They all come back for like about 2 pages, and everybody gets diced by Chainsaw Man. I have to admit, some of the fights in this later part, like when they were throwing other characters at Chainsaw Man, I really felt like there's no need. There's no need for all this.
I don't think I would have hated if we just bumped up our chapter runtime to like chapter 100 for a nice round number and use those 3 chapters to give a little bit of backstory to some of these characters that show up at the end. Wouldn't it hurt?
Or even like to have the ones who return to do something cool. Yeah. Everybody just gets ground through basically. Like it felt kind of senseless to even have this happen.
Well, that's generally true. So there's kind of 2 phases of this battle, as I recall. So Denji, Chainsaw Man, gets thrown into hell. By the way, as part of this operation to kill Makima, a bunch of our public sector devil hunters, they just, on Kishibe's order, kill themselves and sacrifice themselves because they're, I guess, honorable, good warriors. And Denji does get pulled into hell, but he just cuts his fucking way out because there's doors, he figured it out, whatever, it doesn't need to be addressed. And now we're dealing with what looks like more hybrid people like Denji. Now you had said a while ago, Katana Man, pretty cool. I don't need to see a sword man. We've already covered this. Sword man is here. There's a man, big V, he looks like Beautiful Joe going on. There's what appears to be a spear man, a whip man, a flamethrower man, if I'm understanding this correctly. I'm scared of flamethrowers.
It's the whole it's a Mega Man roster, basically.
It's true, and of course, notably, Reza, the bomb lady, is back.
Now I want to go back and read this whole fight while listening to the last song on the first Proto Men album, where it's just like listing all the bad guys as he fights them to hard rock.
This does feel very Mega Man-y now that you're phrased that. This is, what if Mega Man were real, bro? What if? Dare to dream. I guess our guy is, what's that guy named? Metal Man with the buzzsaw. That's our guy.
Well, basically he murders everybody, and then you have the most amazing 2 chapters of all time of him torturing Kobeni in the most horrifying sequence ever.
Let's just skip to that because big fights happen, and it happens again. Chainsaw Man hears out in the distance someone say, "Save me." But who is this person who says "save me" that Chainsaw Man feels the need to aid? It's our old friend Kobeni in her new job.
So this is fucking fantastic. You've got this is a great horror comedy scene.
Yeah,
I would put it along the lines of a lot of like Takashi Miike movies and stuff like that. Of like it starts off with this jingle of all the people who work at this restaurant performing
tomato, lettuce, cheese, bun, and the star that packs a punch is the beef.
So at first it seems like you're literally just watching an ad all of a sudden in the middle of Chainsaw Man, because this is how the scene is introduced. It's like a commercial.
The final battle is happening right now.
So like,
supposed to be.
A commercial just happens out of nowhere, and you're like, what's going on? And then you're in a family restaurant. Kobeni works here, and she's being like harassed by the manager. He's really like laying into her over like basic shit, and then all of a sudden, Chainsaw Man.
I love that they specifically, they're giving her shit for going, before she speaks every time, which is something she's done for the whole series in a funny way.
Yeah, he's really mad at her over her speech patterns. And
it's not familial to do that.
I believe he slaps her in the face.
He sure does.
It's like, family, like this is a familial slap or something like that. So yeah, Chainsaw Man shows up and immediately just like murders somebody who's in line because he's in line ahead of him.
That guy was sitting down and tried to run away, and I think instinctively. That guy was a jerk, though, so, I'm not going to cry over a jerk who was rude to Kobeni.
So Chainsaw Man orders.
Well, there's something going on in his head. He's having visions of like when he was human and he wanted to eat a hamburger. He's trying to make his own dream come true right now by getting a non-rotten hamburger. I guess in the months, possibly years, he's been living the high life. He has not taken the time to get one, so now's the time, I guess.
He wants the stuff that was promised to him as a child that he's never gotten to enjoy. And throughout this situation, every time anyone shows even the slightest bit of non-intention of getting him a burger, they are immediately murdered.
And the comedy in this is fucking incredible. You'll have like what's the jingle? The tomato, cheese, fucking bun, beef, whatever it is. Like they'll do that jingle again, but on one of them, tomato, cheese, panel of a dead man who doesn't say the word, and then bun, and then they keep going. And they do that like 3 times. The comedy is off the charts. This is the best chapter in a long time.
Yeah. It's simultaneously like insanely nerve-wracking because first of all, Kobeni has been our only survivor this whole manga.
She's the normal person.
Everyone dies. Characters come back just to die again.
Yeah.
This is like the only fucking character who's still alive other than Denji and Makima. She's our lone survivor, and
she's not tripping, dog.
She's not necessarily a good person. Is the other thing. Like she's
been working for her family the whole time, though. Trying to help them.
It's true, but she tried to murder Denji before. She's kind of a psycho in general.
Yeah.
She's unpredictable in her behavior, but she will protect her life at the very least. So whereas everyone else at some point just says or does something dumb and gets killed. Kobeni, despite constantly fucking up, just because it's so clear that she's trying to please the customer, she gets to continue living. It is an incredibly stressful and hilarious scene. It's like a Quentin Tarantino movie or something.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't wait to see this turned into fucking anime. This is gonna be nuts, even better. Hopefully, if they do it right. But I gotta mention the one joke of, they're like, a Kishibe, or whatever fucking name, Kobeni, you give him the burger, okay, walks out, trips, spills all over Chainsaw Man, Kobeni, you trying to get us all killed? Okay, someone like dies. Okay, now Kobeni, here again, do it again, don't fuck up, okay, got it, trips again. I mean, I'm not
the guy's
doing justice.
Like, are we on a hidden camera show? We must be on a hidden camera show.
There's no possible way she could have tripped twice in a row. I mean, hilarious. I laugh my ass off. The best. And Denji is a scary man. I was wondering, should I be mad at Denji? But I think Denji is not in control right now, so I'm giving him a pass.
It's hard to say. That is another question. Is like, is this past a point of no return for this character who is now going to have a whole second season? Right. Because this is a apocalyptic manga, it does feel like everything's going to end, but then it kind of doesn't. Like, the way it ends is actually not as much as destroyed or apocalypse as you kind of would have thought.
We'll have a lot to say, I think, on the ending, at least I will when we get there. But so, in the meantime, after the burger incident, Denji has another brilliant idea. I want to go on a date with a cute girl. I want to go. So he takes his fucking intestine rope, grabs Kobeni, and marches straight outside to the local DDR machine.
Yeah.
Where it's time to cut a fucking rug, demands that she Vance! Cuts open an ATM for the fucking money, shoves it in there, and tells her to dance, because this is his idea of what a thing is. And she dances her ass off. Hidden perfect combo streak. It was simply incredible.
My favorite part of that is that, so like, she starts dancing and then it like cuts to a wide and he's not behind her anymore.
Yeah, he's gone. She's still dancing.
He's sitting on the roof looking moody because, like, obviously he's like hasn't gotten what he wanted out of these things that he thought. He has satisfied his childhood desires and now he is a lonely teen once more. I love that at some point later on he like shows back up with, like, Kobeni is still dancing, like, chapters later when he comes back and she's like, oh, I guess our date's over.
I think this time happened very quickly. So this next incident, by the way, so Makima shows back up here with all the hybrid human people. There's one interesting thing I'd noticed that I thought would be interesting to highlight. So I've noted how annoying it is narratively that there is no word in the series. They have never used the word like hybrid or devil, man, human thing or whatever. Makima says something interesting that's, again, a little weird and convenient, but she's like, hey, Denji, all these people, they're like you. They're weird devil hybrid things that are also like immortal and super powerful like you are. And the thing is, you, Chainsaw Man, has eaten the name of these things. There is a very specific reason why these things do not have a name in the narrative, because you ate the name. And, okay, again, here's where it's a little narratively convenient, because that's a cool explanation, but now they still exist. For whatever reason, this is the one concept that still exists, despite having it being eaten. This feels like it's an inserted explanation as to why he never gave a name, because why is it just this one concept that still exists? Is it because Denji is one, but he wasn't always one? I find that detail confusing.
That was weird. That was the one thing that I kind of like raised an eyebrow at. Like, well, why? But why? Why would this one? I mean, just like with Chainsaw Man being able to eat people, it's just like these are two things that just seem to be functions of the plot.
Yeah.
That, you know, like it's fine that that's the case, but just any kind of justification would be nice.
Yeah.
If one is possible, which it should.
Well, so in any case, this is like another leg of the fight against the weapon people, and Denji continues to do great. But here's where weird, different things happen, and the thing that happens here, first of all, Makima herself gets involved in the fight, and here's where we get probably the coolest fight stuff in the entire series, where Denji tears through the weapon guys pretty easily again, but Makima does her little bang, shoot him up control power thing, and blasts him One Punch Man style to the fucking moon right next to Brad Garlinghouse and the price of Ripple.
Yes.
So he is in space as Chainsaw Man. Like, how can he propulse himself? How's he gonna get back?
He tears his own heart out and throws it back at the earth and then regrows back out of it as he descends.
So cool. And even Makima's like, holy shit, this is why I'm a fan of Chainsaw Man.
Yeah.
That's out of this fucking world, bro. Incredible. And
her whole mindset, it turns out, is basically like Tokyo Akazukin, where she's looking for Mr. Wolf to eat her. And like she's in a win-win situation where either she gets to kill Chainsaw Man or she gets to be eaten by Chainsaw Man, and either one, because she's such a huge fan, would be something she enjoys.
And let's briefly just discuss like her plan, since it was mentioned a little bit before this. So the plan, which we basically guessed and is fairly normal for a character of this type, is I will control Chainsaw Man, I will destroy all the concepts that we no longer want to exist. Wouldn't it be great if Chainsaw Man, he ate the 4 other options when you die? What if he eats death and then no one can die anymore? And will that be good? I guess so. If any other bad concepts happen, we'll just eat those too, I guess, and we'll live in like a perfect little pure world. Which is fairly unhinged. Seems it's fucking with the world on a very fundamental level, but this is the plan.
Is Chainsaw Man already. He is
right,
already eating concepts and stuff. So like, it's hard to say if her plan is any more like evil, or if it's even evil at all, like compared to what Chainsaw Man's existence already is. But it is antithetical to his intentions, and I think that comes through the most in this conflict of, through the conversations that Denji has with Makima. He eventually realizes that she does not care about or even really perceive him, Denji, at all. She just sees him as Chainsaw Man. And she doesn't understand why Chainsaw Man chose Denji, because she sees him as not purely chaotic. That like, he has things he cares about, he is like kind of, you know, neutral in most things, not necessarily just a chaotic element. And so she's like, I don't get why Chainsaw Man chose you, you're imperfect. Where obviously she's got to have it backwards. Like Chainsaw Man, if she really understood Chainsaw Man, she would know why Chainsaw Man chose Denji.
She obviously has gaps in what she perceives.
It's her who doesn't understand Chainsaw Man because, well, there's nothing perfect about chaos. You can't have perfect chaos. You can't, it just doesn't add up.
And you know what I think this reveals? I think this reveals an interesting nature here. We've talked about kind of like the romantic poles that these two represent, like the Chainsaw Man chaos and Makima being law and motherly and that stuff. I think that this idea, Makima says like, okay, I've got a plan, I'm gonna try to enact it, control the world, control Chainsaw Man, but you can see on her face the joy when Chainsaw Man is kicking everybody's ass, including her own ass. And she kind of clearly wants to be part of something. I don't think in her heart of hearts, she thinks like, I'm the best person ever, I know what everyone should want. I think she wants to be part of like a bigger plan, because it's nice to not be, when you're the king, when you're the person in charge of the whole world, that's a lot of pressure, it's stressful, and it kind of sucks. There's a lot of expectation, and you can make mistakes, and that's a lot of fucking pressure. And I mean, this is explained a little more clearly when we get to the end here, but Makima makes it pretty clear. She's not actually interested in like being a domination person like exclusively. She's not crazy. I think it's just her nature, but there's just this other factor, this other side of her, which is represented through Chainsaw Man, like the total opposite of her, that like I want to be part of someone else. I wanna be an equal. I mean, this is the point that's made later on. You know, frankly, people talk about the meme or the stereotype of like Wall Street bankers like love to be submissive and like fucked in the ass because they don't get that in their daily job. They like to be submissive like sexually or whatever. So I think it might be that kind of expression through her character. So with the battle going on, as Makima, seeing how strong Chainsaw Man is, she does at this point say like, okay, it's time to wrap this shit up. And she does one of the coolest looking attacks in the series, where she really likes the angel devil's power and uses it again, which we know can be supercharged with a certain amount of like life force. She puts 1,000 years into this big spear attack, which looks just fucking sick. Put it up on screen here. It fucking looks awesome. There's like a hole in space-time when she blasts this thing. And she points it not at Chainsaw Man, but at Kobeni. Classic hostage-taking, situation.
Because she's like, well, this was her accusation of him not being truly chaotic. That he's like, he's a real hero. That like, he will throw himself in front of this thing to save this girl, and like, even if he might not have enough strength to do it. And that seems to be something she doesn't respect about him. Again, that seems to be. Like, I think about chainsaws and their purpose in real life, and a chainsaw, like, it can be used for chaotic violence or just to chop down trees, you know? So, like, I wonder if that's what they're trying to kind of say with this character is like, well, no, chainsaws are not chaos. They're not purely used to cut through demons in hell.
You know what it reminds me of? Just the classic symbol of the yin and the yang, which is like the two poles of like white and black, but within the center of each of them, there is a core of like their opposing element. Like Makima is not purely orderly. Chainsaw Man is not pure chaos.
I think that's what's missing from Makima is that she doesn't understand that about herself. Like, she probably thinks she is pure order, and that's why it's this binary choice of like, I have to either literally kill you or be consumed by you because we can't exist at the same time. And it's like, well, you can.
Yeah,
like,
you can.
That's the yin yang. That's the whole point. And that's sort of what the ending supposes. We'll get to that after we finish unraveling all the rest of these fights and everything, I think.
Yeah, so
I'm just thinking about the amazing shot of her holding like a half of him with his heart out on the backdrop of the graveyard.
That was an amazing
fucking
scene.
Awesome shot. And like the original Devilman ends with a shot of like Lucifer holding the top half of Devilman's body on like on the rocks while like there's all these angels in the background. It's like the most iconic fucking ending shot ever.
Yeah.
This is like this manga's take on that shot.
It's interesting.
Just so fucking good.
I agree, that is interesting, but it's interesting what happens immediately after that as opposed to Devilman. But we'll get to there in a minute.
Yeah.
So just cutting through the events that get us up to that point. So this does in fact like devastate Chainsaw Man, 1,000-year blast, oof, I'm dead. But he does save Kobeni, so nice work, Chainsaw Man. But now being all fucked up on the ground, obliterated, with Makima disappointed that Chainsaw Man's been fucked up, a character comes back, and all that blood, who emerges? It's Power.
Power is the blood devil, and she's been giving her blood to Denji for him to use as power.
There was at least that one scene where Power forcefully said, Denji, eat my blood, eat my blood, eat my blood. He didn't want to, but he did. I have no problem whatsoever believing that like a piece of the blood devil lives on in her blood given to Denji.
I think we've seen her like come back from blood in some fashion before too. Like she's done things. I mean, we know she can manipulate blood just in general.
Yeah,
it's hard not to think that she could come back from the blood as another immortal. And there's an awesome scene of her just like constantly taking people out by having their own blood shoot out of them as swords.
I was wondering why she hadn't done that all along up to this point. Blood seems like a really useful skill.
It seems to be implied that through taking over Chainsaw Man, she is just way more powerful than she used to be. So, because she's like, oh, I have the strength now, I have the power, and like that confidence boost that she gets from having it also seems to contribute to it. And then she's like, Makima ain't shit, I'm fucking real.
Well, yeah, I mean, I love that. But first of all, there's in the little headspace, she has like a conversation with Puchita. She like is given the situation, she's alive at least kind of in some way, and her in her sick-looking devil form that we see for the first time here comes back and is like carrying Chainsaw Man away. But what I love about this is that, Makima's throwing zombies at her and all her weapon guys and stuff, Power's doing all right. But the thing is, you got to ask at the end of the day, Makima is the control devil. She's gonna control Power at some point. She's going to like overwhelm her with just her raw control power, because Power's never been implied to be that strong or that powerful. So what is it? What's gonna happen when she finally says like, kneel, give me Chainsaw Man, stop, I'm using my control powers? It's that old thing. It's Power's that's been there the entire time. Power's true power all along was her self-confidence. I like to think that it was Power's sheer belief that I am the best is a direct contradiction to Control Devil's power that I can control people I think I'm better than. I like to think it's Power's sheer, totally unfounded confidence that allows her to resist this control. Because it's great. Otherwise, it'd be shitty.
My other theory was that part of it is that during this point is when people have started cheering on Chainsaw Man around the world.
Oh, right, yeah.
And Makima is claiming that this is making him weaker. That, like, because of the fact that people now think he's a hero and a badass,
right.
that he's less powerful, and that's why she's like, she says that right before she attacks Kobeni as well. Like, it seems like he's in a weaker state, but it could just be that, like, he actually is getting, like, heroic power or like some other type of power from that. And I was thinking about Power herself, like she's the blood devil. What if like blood is more powerful than control in the sense that like you are willing to override control if it's for the sake of your blood, you know, someone you consider blood. Like
this feels like the old Homestuck discussions about the different class specs and what they mean and but that's where we are though. Yeah, to be fair.
Well, particularly just the way the scene is portrayed of her being like, oh, you're like family to me, and that's why I'm going to resist the control. It's I care about Denji so much that I'm not going to, you know, go against him for these other reasons. So it's like
yeah, you're right.
So that made me think, like, is this a metaphor for blood, meaning, like, we are blood brothers, or, like, or is it just...
I don't know, man. I don't fucking know these shit. In any case, you know, circling back just on the cheering aspect, you know, we didn't mention, I think it was last episode, a great moment that I did want to just highlight, which was there was a moment where Denji is fighting the Gun Devil when Aki Hayakawa is being possessed by him, and like he's fucked up, he's really hurt, and the people themselves, it's the Spider-Man 2 moment, where the people themselves come over, and you think that this lady is like gonna be scared or run away, but she stabs herself and lets Denji eat her blood. This random civilian, obviously knowing like, this is Chainsaw Man, he fights to help us. He's like a hero devil, we should help him. And now that we're seeing, now Makima is using like that ability strategically to spread the news of the good guy Chainsaw Man, to depower him. Clearly she had set up like this plan to make everybody love Chainsaw Man, to depower him, even if there's something other, you know, some heroic power going on or something. So in any case, Power manages to spirit Denji away long enough in like a trash can for them to have this little moment together away from Makima and stuff, where they basically have their last conversation. But important things happen here that could have ramifications for the future, where Power basically says like, cheer up, Buttercup, you know, you gotta hang in there, you can't let Makima beat you. Like, yes, she's fucked up your brain, you're all kinds of fucked up. I'm your bro. I'm undoing the mental damage you're done. You gotta just hang in there and keep being a good old boy. And furthermore, let me give you a reason to live right now, because I'm the Blood Devil, I'm dead, I'm dying, I'm going away. But before I die, I'm gonna make you a contract. Here's the contract, Denji. I'm your bro, I'm your friend. Find me again after I die and like help me remember you after I'm reborn as, you know, the Blood Devil. This is a contract. I'll give you my bloodness, you find me and be friends one day. So there's a specific contract. Find the Blood Devil.
So obviously the start of part 2 is going to be, let's meet our new shonen rival / best friend, the new Blood Devil.
Something like that, yeah.
Possibly even antagonist of season 2.
That's gotta be, that's an emotional thing we're gonna go into, and I appreciate them laying the groundwork for that. That's cool. But what this does effectively is it just revives Denji. He's a human again, he comes back, and Kishibe, the master, is just like, yo bro, you good?
Yeah.
I'm good. And him and Kobeni just get spirited off to an underground bunker.
Denji and Kobeni have this conversation where she's like, I'm really afraid to die. Like, that's basically her main thing. She's excited about being locked away from the rest of the world because she's away from her parents, who I guess are shit. But like,
and her responsibilities, you know.
It's just fascinating that like she's put into the situation where she's told like, oh, you're closed off from everyone and you can't see your family, and she's like, oh, thank God. Now if I just wasn't afraid of dying, it would all be fine. And Denji's like, I don't even care about the dying part. I'm just like sad and fucking miserable. Like everything sucks. Well, particularly he has finally recognized his folly with Makima, which was that he basically just never made any decisions of his own.
You know, I appreciate the parallel here of Denji obviously being like basically a slave, you know, a dog working under Makima. Kobeni was the same way for her family, and now she finally has like an excuse to no longer fulfill it. The point, I think, being that like this is us really learning. Not every leash is like good or beneficial. It's an honorable thing to take care of your family, don't get me wrong. But if that like makes you sacrifice your life, you know, maybe it's not necessarily the best way. Maybe it's time to re-examine things. Question, why isn't Kobeni's parents able to take care of the family? You know, I'm not saying we know for sure they're bad people. Maybe they're like gambling, maybe they're like druggies, maybe they're like terrible parents, and maybe the real thing for Kobeni to do is not just mindlessly funnel money to them through these life-risking jobs. It would be to like realize, am I making a mistake by just operating in this way?
Right.
That's a possibility, and these are the questions you gotta ask, and Denji's finally asking them.
If I had to say what I think like the biggest theme in the ending of the story, possibly the whole thing, is it's don't be pretentious. That like the characters all are they're trying to be kind of bigger than they are, or be with someone who's bigger than they are, be a part of something bigger than themselves, and they forfeit their individuality and decision making in service of that. So like, you know, Denji, like you might not think of him as being pretentious because he is so like he lives in squalor and like he's down on himself, but he commits himself to Makima because he thinks she's the coolest, she's the smartest, she's the best. So, you know, I don't have to make any decisions because there's this incredibly smart, brilliant person out there who I can be in service of, you know? And it's like, well, if you just give yourself over to whoever, then, you know, they're going to be able to manipulate you. And he was very easy to manipulate because he's so dumb. And like, you know, Makima goes on this speech at one point about how she's like, I love people because they're just like dogs. Like, they're easy to manipulate, easy to get to, you know, do what you want. And like, it was funny that she says that. I might have brought this up in a previous one, but that's why I don't like dogs, is that they're so easy to manipulate that it feels weird to me that it's like...
Yeah, but name me the animal you do like. You can't do it.
Well, that's the problem. They're well,
Okay.
no, I'm fine
What
with
about
cats.
man, the most powerful animal?
Cats are cool because they don't fuck around with you. They just go
Okay.
do their own thing all day, and like they're their own people.
So the animal
know?
you have to interact with the least is the best animal. Okay, okay.
Well, same with people. You know, people you interact with on like strict terms of like trying to accomplish things.
Neediness is not an attractive quality in a human, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So what's great about Chainsaw Man is should be his lack of neediness. That he is his own person who goes out and like and does his own thing. But what is it that Chainsaw Man needs? And in the end, we learned that the real motivation of Pucci the whole time had been that he just wanted a hug. His motivation this whole time was, I wanted a hug, but I was so strong it was really hard.
Yeah.
So every time I try to hug somebody, they die. So that's all he wanted was a hug, and Denji gave him a hug. And that's why he, like, you know, fused
That's why he's
with
so
Denji.
loyal to him and helps him so much, yeah.
So, like, ultimately, you know, that idea of, like, the hug sort of being a representation of, like, mutual love or respect between two people, seemingly, like, because, you know, Power and Denji share these hugs. Makima, I don't know if Makima ever hugs Denji throughout the series.
Actually, she does when they first meet, in order to revert him from being the berserk Chainsaw Man, to make him calm down. I believe it was the very beginning.
That makes sense that would do that then, if that's what if that's what Chainsaw Man is all about, is getting them hugs. But yeah, like it was just interesting the line that Chainsaw Man says to Makima about when she gives her whole speech about like, I'm gonna remove all these bad concepts from the world. He says like, well, are you going to take away crappy movies?
Right.
And she says, well, yeah, there should only be good movies. And he's like,
see, right there.
This is the problem.
We could have skipped all of Chainsaw Man and addressed this one question.
Yeah.
This is the meaning of the entire point of the story, basically.
and it was through that line that it made me think about what the author could have been influenced by or meant by all this and why I came up with the exact phrase, don't be pretentious. Because Chainsaw Man is very close to being an extremely pretentious manga.
It could have been, yeah.
It is super artsy. It's got all these references to all kinds of like film styles and,
that No
and
Country
presentation.
for Old Men reference or whatever.
Yeah, there's direct references. I mean, it's clearly just that the author has been inspired by tons and tons of film. The manga feels incredibly cinematic, and there's the whole date movie scene that was like kind of the way that Makima got Denji in the first place was like they loved these art house movies together. But Denji didn't dislike going to see all those crappy movies with Makima.
Right.
He enjoyed all the movies he saw with Makima because he saw them with Makima. Makima's like, only good movies should exist. This is the difference,
I've heard people express concern, and I kind of share this, that we never circled back and specifically address that one moment where Makima was crying, like looking at that one movie, which Denji like didn't love or something. And I always felt like they were trying to get to the point of that, I think, through Denji specifically mentioning crappy movies, obviously referring to like that date they had shared together early on in the series. And I think that you're right. The point there, obviously, it's crystal clear that Denji is making this point that like you need the light and the darkness to compare the two.
Yeah.
Bad things are enjoyable in of themselves in their own way. Having a purely good world is just asking for all kinds of trouble. Philosophers have talked about this for a long time. But specifically, like, she cried and seemed to only care about one movie so much. Like, what did that mean? What movie was that? Why did she care so much? I guess the real answer is it doesn't matter. It's just the embodiment of this idea that everything's trash except that which is like the one purest best thing. And that attitude is reflected in her whole plan here.
I'm a really big fan of any kind of stuff that tries to bridge the gap of high and low art, as it were. Like stuff that, when I see a creator who's obviously equally as much of a fan of like pop ridiculousness, like this is a Shonen Jump manga, it's Chainsaw Man. It's about a guy with chainsaws for arms carving through demons. It's literally Doom, Army of Darkness, like just schlock, but it's wrapped up in the, presentation of scenes that are like referencing 2001: A Space Odyssey and shit. Like it's trippy and weird and complex, and the narrative moves really fast, and like I would even accuse it at times of being too fast, of like not settling in the characters long enough some of the time, or being maybe just like in its effort to be like shocking and dark, it does just kind of kill most of the characters, like kind of. I won't say it's glib about it, but it is very just like these characters are gone.
It stands in stark contrast to like probably every other series running in like Shonen Jump right now by killing like every character who could have a spin-off series or whatever the fuck, because that's not the point. That's not the point.
Well, and it's that's why it was shocking that there even is a part 2 to this manga, because like the attitude that it had was the kind that you look at it and you say, as like a 5-volume or whatever it is complete package, like probably more.
It's going to be 11 by the end.
11.
But the cover of chapter or volume 11 isn't out yet. I was dying to see it so I can put it on the screen, but it doesn't exist yet. I'm very excited for it.
As a tight 11-volume package, it's fine to have like all these plot threads that kind of get introduced to be tied up in just like a cool visual, But when you're going into like a longer series, it's like, well, am I going to expect all the new characters who get introduced to die by the end of part 2? Or like, are we going to be fleshing these characters out more in a way where, granted, like I had felt this way at the start of Attack on Titan, like, oh, well, why would I get invested in these characters if they're all going to die? Well, like that question was eventually answered by, well, some of them will live longer. Will some of these characters, is anybody alive to be fleshed out in the next part of Chainsaw Man besides Denji?
Kishibe, the master. He's the one guy who I can think of.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if the story where can it go after going so high concept at the end here,
I want to get into that. I just want to touch on some of the details that are obviously highly relevant to that. And by the way, on your lowbrow, highbrow bridging point, one little detail that I hadn't heard, I heard that in that famous shot of the Darkness Devil showing up and with all the astronauts there, did you hear? The word on the street is that the number of astronauts that show up in the row is the same as the number of astronauts that have died in space in real-life human history.
Wow!
Very large brain.
Galaxy brain.
Galaxy brain stuff. If that's true, it probably is. It seems reliable. Okay, in any case, so the point here being, Denji he was in hiding with What's-Her-Face and the master guy with Kobeni, and so as opposed to the scene previously when the cheers of the world were making him weaker, he seems to have shifted paradigms. Now he sees on TV that people are cheering for Chainsaw Man, and he's able to like see it himself and appreciate it. The world loves Chainsaw Man. They're rooting for him, and so he finds the resolve like, okay, I'm not Puchita, I'm not this Chainsaw Man, I'm a different kind of Chainsaw Man. I'm just gonna do my best and see what I can do to beat Makima. So the final confrontation happens, which in summary is Makima throwing everything at Chainsaw Man. Chainsaw Man does his best. Denji beats all her henchmen, but Makima herself has a one-on-one slugfest.
It's awesome.
Which was fucking sick. She is fucking yoked, and she's blowing this guy apart.
The full page spreads of them just trading blows are fucking sick.
You don't expect a Makima type character to go hand to hand. It is the basis of all combat,
what you want,
Jack.
And you got it.
It was pretty sick, but in the end, of course, Makima does win, and we get the whole heart ripping out thing.
Yeah.
And this is where we get
the one shot of her like
stuff.
on her knees, cut up the center with blood spraying out. Great shot.
That is great. So what happens here? What leads to that point? It's that she rips out Puchita. She loves Chainsaw Man. She's all about little Chainsaw Man heart she ripped out. So that as you had mentioned, she has totally forgotten about Denji's whole existence. And what defeats Makima ultimately? It is not, in fact, the Chainsaw Man that does it. It's Denji having had Pucci ripped out of his fucking chest, filled with the blood power that Power had given him, makes a blood chainsaw with Power's abilities because he had a contract with her, and he slices this bitch wide fucking open. And the point being, it was not Chainsaw Man that defeated Makima. It was Denji. Denji did it. This is the first thing Denji did basically on his own since we met Makima at the beginning of this series. And this is how he was able to get close, because she's not... They do this thing where they're like, whoa, Makima sensed everybody based on smell. I was like, why do we include that detail?
Right.
Who cares? I don't see how that even matters at all.
It matters because that's how she doesn't know Denji. Like... She's only ever recognized him as Chainsaw Man based on him smelling like Chainsaw Man. So if he was just Denji, she wouldn't recognize him, I think was his logic.
I guess that's fine. Okay, I understand the point they're getting with, obviously. And she has, they cleverly reference the time she talked about smells in the past. Okay, brilliant, 10,000 IQ writing, it's fine. So what's to be done here? Oh, by the way, we didn't even mention, how does Makima survive all these hits? In this battle, we see, just like in, Basil Hawkins in One Piece, she gets cut, the attack hits like one of her henchmen. But even before that, during the big conversation with Kishibe, she says, here's the deal, champ. The reason you can't kill me is because I literally have a deal with the Prime Minister of Japan. Anytime anyone kills me, someone in Japan just gets killed instead. They get an illness or an accident. That just happens. So she's invulnerable. But she didn't check the fine print of the contract here. Because what if you slice and dice her apart with love, without malice, without wishing her to die? Because, it was interesting to note that Denji coming into this whole fight has a moment where he thinks back on all the horrible things she's done. She killed, his girlfriend, all his friends. She's responsible for all this fucked up shit. Killed Power in front of him. And yet, he doesn't hate her. He doesn't hate her. Nah. He still likes her. It doesn't even seem to be control, She got a lot of good things into his life. He still has low expectations. So he has a plan. If you kill Makima, she just comes back. What's the idea? I'm just going to fuse with her, bro. I'm just going to fuse with her. But I'm not going to be Chainsaw Man while I do it. How do I fuse with someone? Well, I'm in normal human form. Well, we got to chop her up into pieces, cook her into a delicious stew and sashimi and soup and whatnot, and just eat her whole body. Every single piece of her body will be eaten by Denji, one piece at a time.
In a soup.
In a soup?
A miso soup.
I gotta say, did not expect it to go this way. I expected Chainsaw Man to eat her in Chainsaw Man mode, not Denji to eat her as a miso soup with delicious meat dumplings. But talk about outside the box thinking, though. I wouldn't have thought that cannibalism was the solution.
It seems that the idea is that his expression of love is via living as she would for a day or something. He eats her in a food she would have eaten, I guess.
Yeah, well.
In it was an odd.
Here's my interpretation. I think that what's happening here is he's eating her in all the. I think that there's this idea of the delicious food that's been a recurring element. I think with all the love in his heart for Makima as the nice things that she brought into his life, he's expressing that appreciation by eating all the delicious meat food that he's wanted to have, all the buns, all the ribs, all the good stuff. And he's doing it in like as nice a way possible, just one piece at a time, sitting down and eating it. And this idea of living your life, I don't know if I think that's necessarily part of it. I just think that he continues to express his like appreciation for her by caring for her dogs and also Power's cat. I noticed he's taking care of both their pets, and just like expressing that like there were good things about Makima too. She brought good things to my life. I'll take care of her dogs and just be a good boy and
But then the control devil gets reborn into a new little girl.
Like immediately, incidentally. How much time passed here?
What was her name? Like Kakuma or
something?
It
was Nayuta, I believe.
Nayuta.
Yeah.
And Nayuta is tons of fun and adorable right away. She's basically a lot like Power in that she's like a bratty little devil kid.
She's bratty like Power. She's the control devil like Makima. And her hairstyle and attitude looks just like Reze. So she seems like all the girls that Denji has had in his life fused into one little
But now he has
lolly.
to raise her as a child. So,
yep.
And the idea is that her dream is to live, just as the Chainsaw Devil's dream was to get a hug, her dream was to live on
equal terms with someone, yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see if Denji can raise her into that person. Because like, even just from the attitude she has right now as a kid, it's like, you could easily see her, like, because the guy says, like, she could just become Makima again.
Well, there's a great line right there. They're like, you know, if I gave her to the government, they might turn her into just like another Makima, which might imply that the government, like, whatever we know that she was obviously working with the prime minister, the government, all that stuff. Maybe it was their influence that turned her into the particular monster she was.
Well, and that's what's interesting is that, like, now that the control devil is being raised by the chaos, what is considered analogous to a chaos devil in this manga, will she have a different take on order and what is necessary? That would be interesting.
You know,
let's see what happens in part 2 when Chainsaw Man goes to high school.
Yeah, so real quick on that. Now, first of all, in the last chapter that came out like just a handful of like weeks ago, we're now, you know, barely up to date with this shit. They announced the anime, you know, everyone's excited about that. I gotta say, you know, I have some doubts about Mappa's gonna be animating it. You know, like they're doing Jujutsu Kaisen right now. Looks great. If it looks like that, I'll be stoked. If the quality is just up to what they did with that, I think that will be great. But it could be more like Dorohedoro, which is not the word. I'm not saying it's shit. I know that they did their best. The models are really complicated in Dorohedoro. It was like a compromise. Can you see this man not being CG when they get to that point?
No fucking
He's
chance.
going to be CG.
Mappa's also doing Attack on Titan season 4, so.
Which I know some
CG Titans.
They're CG. Yeah, they're using a lot of CG. And look, I know CG is a means to an end. Yeah. It serves a valuable purpose. It allows anime to be made that just wouldn't be made otherwise and be economically viable. So I appreciate that. I'm a little concerned, but I gotta say, on like the beginning of chapter 97, there's a little note from Fujimoto where he says, like, hey guys, Fujimoto here, just letting you know, like, I am so stoked that Mappa is going to be doing the adaptation of Chainsaw Man because they're also doing Dorohedoro and Jujutsu Kaisen, and my series Chainsaw Man is just a ripoff of those two series, so I'm thrilled that that same studio is going to bring it to life.
That's fucking
That
hilarious.
was adorable and great, and just the fact that Fujimoto is excited they're doing it makes me feel a lot better, even though he's being a fucking corporate sellout shill piece of shit. Yeah. Fuck you, dude. Animate it yourself for 20 years and then come back to me.
For only 20 years to animate the entire
by
new
yourself?
Chainsaw
Okay.
Man. I mean, I would love it if it was like Studio Shaft and Akiyuki Shinbo, and there was no motion, but it looked like the manga, like just the cinematic presentation of it. But I know it's gonna be big clunky CG Chainsaw Man running around going. Meow.
If they just do some of the stuff we talked about as we were covering it here and adapt it in a creative and fun way, and just the visuals are just as polished as Jujutsu Kaisen, I will be excited and happy.
That level of visual polish is fine. It's
Yeah.
the direction that I'm worried
The
about.
timing,
Yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen feels like moving manga in the worst way to me. This manga does not feel like manga, like in the first place. So even if they just adapted it frame by frame, they are going to have to get creative in how they even imagine that, because it's frames that haven't been done in manga. So
remember that section I talked about where the curse demon shows up and like I edited into the episode a whole like artistic way to visually represent something outside the space-time continuum of the show. You got like, that's the kind of thing I want. That level of abstract thinking. I mean, I would certainly hope for that, but I mean, I will certainly be interested to see where it goes.
Speaking of adaptations, here at the end, let's take a look back and celebrate some of the amazing fan works inspired by and produced in honor of Chainsaw Man, such as the ever-popular fan art, fan animations, dank meme edits,
And if you choose the $30 subscription, you get...
Silence, wench. I do not wish to be horny anymore. I just want to be happy.
and even playable games.
I mean, and on the subject of this being the end of part 1, the public security arc, Denji is now like average high school kid apparently, and is like a devil hunter for fun. This almost feels like this really was just the prologue episode to the real Chainsaw Man. That's gonna be like the normal like Naruto like storyline, or Jujutsu Kaisen, I guess, or whatever. I am concerned that whatever comes in the future cannot live up to what we've seen so far. Because we've explored the depths of what is hell, what are devils. We've reached the logical conclusion of how crazy the concept can get.
I think there's one major thing we haven't explored at all.
What's that? What's that?
Because we had an angel devil, but what about angels? Like, are there just like devils all seem to be powered by fear? Is there anything powered by hope? Is there like an other side of the coin here? Like,
Well, listen.
we're gonna have to fight God next.
Some sequel series can add giant new concepts that don't ruin everything. Notably, Kingdom Hearts 2. The concept of nobodies should have existed all along according to the lore, but was never narratively important in Kingdom Hearts 1. And like in Kingdom Hearts 2, it was there, it mattered, but it made sense, sort of, why it wasn't there. But often, it's so easy to fuck up when you just add giant, like, literally, why didn't, like, God get involved? Or, you know, other angels.
Is there a devil?
I think...
It's just the devil?
My conclusion right now is that angels shouldn't exist in this world, or else we should have heard of them a long time ago. And that does matter. Kingdom Hearts 1 is a very childish story, so you can forgive a lot of that. This is not like the most mature, but it's more like gritty and realistic and stuff. So I will be a little upset if they just add giant concepts like that. Like surely Makima should have incorporated these other things into her plan if they were going to be relevant or something. Or maybe not. So
Maybe there'll be an alien invasion or something. I mean, the biggest
Sure.
things, my biggest expectations from the second part, obviously raising the Nayuta to be a better order devil will be one part of it. And I also think that something that didn't really get explored in this series, but kind of started coming up at the end, is right before he sees the TV and everybody's saying like, "Oh, Chainsaw Man's the best." He's telling Kobeni that he dreamed of a normal life, and she seems to kind of question this as like, what do you mean by a normal life? Right before he goes up to see the TV, and like, you know, her life. She's like presented as sort of the normie character,
Right.
But like obviously she has like fucked up parenthood. She's constantly getting thrown into these weird, but crazy scenarios, and like, I guess a theme I'd like to see explored is there such thing as a normal life? Like now that Denji has now that he's like going to strive to you know make a normal life for himself based on his own decisions. how can that even happen? What is that? You know,
It feels like he's graduated into becoming a Jujutsu Kaisen character, and where I'm sitting, that's a fate worse than death. Just end the series. Don't let that happen. Considering, I don't know, he could fight the devil of hell. What? We've introduced like this cycle of life and death, and it's just a reality. Like, oh my God, more chapters, more story. They're not gonna hurt anything. Wrong. When you take a series and you just keep adding stuff to it, if it doesn't at least stay the same, actually improve, you water down the entire narrative. You can add things that fuck stuff up.
It's hard for me to imagine this story continuing without adding tons of lore.
Yeah,
And I don't know if that will break it.
I gotta say, I am actively concerned that the future of this will just get worse. But
I think maybe that's why he, broke it off here and was like, look, this is Chainsaw Man. Like, there's the other thing, but this is it's kind of like with Berserk. There's a lot of people who wish the Golden Age arc, like people
ended right there.
People will literally tell you like, oh, I'm a huge fan of Berserk, but like mostly the Golden Age arc. And it's like, he made it easy just in case.
That's actually a very interesting comparison. That is a point you hear all the time in these circles. And having read there might be like a chapter or two out that I haven't read, but I've read all of Berserk. And I think people undervalue the stuff that comes after. The Execution Tower arc is really cool. And while it's true that like the actual lore that happens, there's like a handful of events of Griffith getting reborn like again, cutting open the world to turn everything into like the astral plane.
We can't get into too much of a Berserk discussion.
You're right.
Already
you're right.
More than an hour deep.
The point simply being that I could be proved wrong. My concerns could turn out to not be as bad as I fear. But it is very common that what I'm afraid of will happen. See the compilation of Final Fantasy VII. See, I don't know, all kind of Kingdom Hearts beyond Kingdom Hearts 2, et cetera, et cetera. So I I hope he's got a really good idea. That's all I'm saying. I hope we've got good ideas that are carry us forward because Chainsaw Man up to this point has been great. It has been great. I'd probably call it like a strong 9. Not quite a 10, but a strong 9.
I would give it a strong 9 to a 10 as well. And one of my favorite manga. Definitely up there.
I can't believe how good it turned out considering the premise.
Just consistently
so cool.
Fucking badass.
Yeah.
So I want you in the audience, if you made it this far, to let us know, do you think we should follow this up with our next manga? It's going to be a while before we can read more manga because we got a ton of sequels this season. But should our next manga be Fire Punch, which is from Chainsaw Man's author beforehand? I know a lot of you want that.
Some people say it's even better.
And it's like 8 volumes, I think.
Okay.
So we could charge through that in a couple videos maybe. Or we could move right on to Spy X Family, which is a currently running manga from the assistant who worked on Fire Punch, which is also really good.
Which I've read a bunch of, and I'm a big fan.
I'm a big fan as well. Or we could read a classic like Berserk or JoJo. Like at some point we want to start JoJo, but once we start JoJo, it's going to take us like a year.
We'll have to cut it up or something. Give the people a break.
It will take us a really fucking long time to read all of JoJo, and we don't want to have more than one manga episode a week. Probably.
Right, that seems fair.
Unless people like Chainsaw Man did a lot of views. So if you guys like us covering manga even more than anime, there's no reason we can't be a manga review channel. But you got to tell us what manga would get these views again.
Yeah, let us know. Call up Johnny YouTube and ask him, what's the algorithm like today, Johnny? Give me the info, give me the skinny, and then let us know in the comments below.
Yeah.
Manga's cool, guys. Go read Chainsaw Man. I want these 11 volumes on my shelf.
Man, I looked at the list of what's in Shonen Jump right now, and like everything like noteworthy has ended. So it's like weird. I was like, I don't know what anything is anymore.
Did Dr. Stone end? That's still going, right?
Dr. Stone might still be going.
Okay, just wondering.
But like most of it had ended.
Well, goddamn, folks. Thanks for watching this long-ass episode of KHANTEHNT. I hope you're satisfied. Chainsaw Man deserved a little extra coverage, and we did it. Subscribestar.com/KHANTEHNT, $10 for all our bonus episodes, and support us in our incredibly detailed discussion of things. Also buy t-shirts, including the I Survived Titan Week t-shirt, if you survived Titan Week, and all kinds of other stuff. Twitter, Discord, and send us KHANTEHNT clips. See you next time, folks.
KHANTENT!